Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Rosemary, and in today's video, my son Matt and I are back with another Budget Meals Challenge, where we shop inexpensive options to either more affordably remake classic dishes or find new ingredients and combinations to come up with fabulous new ideas for all around $2 per adult size serving. For this video, we decided to center all the dishes around one main ingredient, chicken tenders. I love using tenders for meals. You can usually pick them up for about $4 a pound, and they cook up super fast and are uber versatile, as they can be combined with so many different seasonings and ingredients to come up with a new meal every night. I also want to let you know that for ease of pricing and pickup, and because most people have one nearby, all the ingredients to make these meals were purchased at Walmart. And of course, since this is FABEDhacks, all the meals will be fast, affordable, easy, and delicious, and oh yeah, kind of pretty too. So let's jump right in with our first chicken tenders-based meal, pollo con pomodoro secche e spinaci, or chicken with sun-dried tomatoes and spinach. Sounds so much more fancy in Italian. So for this dish, in addition to the tenders, I'm also going to be using a jar of these julienne cut sun-dried tomatoes. Now, at $5.18 a jar, you may not think of these as a budget meal ingredient purchase. But the fact is that this little jar packs a lot of value. So you can pretty much make a meal for 4 to 6 large adult-sized servings with just this jar and a pound of pasta for about $6 total, coming in at around $1 to $1.50 per meal. But since this is a chicken tenders video, we're going to go ahead and bring those in, and I have about a pound here, or about 7 tenders. In addition, I have about a cup of spinach, and I will be using the rest of this bag of spinach that I picked up for $1.98 at Walmart in the next recipe. I also have 4 cloves of garlic chopped, about a half a teaspoon of red pepper, and a half a cup Parmesan, and then a 1-pound package of linguine, but any pasta works well. I just like the spaghettis and the linguine since they take slightly less time to cook. So I started by bringing a pot of salted water up to a boil for the pasta. Once the water was boiling, I put the pasta in, and since the rest of this meal comes together so quickly, you really don't want to start the next steps until the pasta is underway. So once the pasta was cooking, I heated up a large frying pan over medium-high heat, and while that was coming up to heat, I seasoned the chicken with salt and pepper. Next, I added some oil from the tomatoes to the pan, and then cooked the tenders about 4 minutes on each side until they were golden brown, and then flipped the tenders over and cooked on the other side again until golden brown, about 4 minutes. From there, I removed the chicken from the pan and added in a little more of that oil from the tomato jar. Then, when that was warmed, I added the red pepper flakes and the garlic and sauteed until fragrant, about a minute or so, and then I added in the tomatoes and sauteed those all together for about 2 minutes or so. Next, I took about 1/2 cup of the pasta water, which was nice and starchy now from the pasta cooking in the pot, and I added about half of that to the tomatoes, stirred, and let that simmer. Now, depending on the type of pasta you're cooking, your pasta should be done by now. Mine's was, so I went ahead and drained it. Then I mixed that into the tomatoes. And now you can add a little bit more of that pasta water here if needed. Next, I stirred in the Parmesan, and once that was incorporated, I stirred in the spinach. The heat from the pasta will cook and wilt down the spinach in about a minute or so. Finally, I added back in the chicken that I had cut into smaller pieces and then seasoned with salt and pepper to taste. And then once everything was heated through, this quick, easy, and delicious meal with a protein, 2 veggies, and a starch was ready. Oh my goodness, this dish is absolutely delicious. And I would even be as bold to say restaurant worthy. Like seriously, you would pay $15 or $16 at least a plate for this meal at a restaurant. And now you know how to make it for less than $2. And here's the cost breakdown. 1 pound of chicken tenders, $3.96. 1 jar of the sun-dried tomatoes and oil, $5.18. A cup of spinach from that 10-ounce bag, 40 cents prorated. 4 cloves of garlic, about 40 cents. 1/2 cup of Parmesan, 50 cents. About 5 cents for the seasoning. And 1 pound of linguine at 98 cents, totaling $11.47. And since this recipe yields 6 adult-sized servings, the per-serving price comes in at just $1.91. For the next meal, we made a delicious but more budget-friendly version of chicken Florentine, which is pan-fried cutlets smothered in a delectable creamy spinach sauce. To make this meal, we will again be using 1 pound of the chicken tenders, the rest of that 10-ounce bag of spinach from the previous recipe, 3 cloves of minced garlic, 1/2 cup chopped onion, 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, 1/2 cup Parmesan, and also a little flour for dredging and thickening. Now, traditionally, this dish also calls for white wine and heavy cream, but we will be using some more budget-friendly substitutions, with lemon juice and water to replace the wine and milk and butter to replace the cream. We will also be using some chicken stock, and you can also use bouillon here, but we picked up this carton since we'll also be using broth in the next 2 recipes as well. For a side dish, we wanted to make mashed potatoes. So, keeping with our quick, easy, and budget-friendly theme, we picked up this packet of instant mashed potatoes. Okay, so the first thing Matt did was to flatten out the chicken tenders a bit, and here you can see how he placed the tenders in a Ziploc bag and then tapped the tenders with a mallet to gently flatten. Next, he took some flour and he seasoned that with salt and pepper and then dredged the flattened pieces of chicken evenly to coat with the flour. From here, he heated a large frying pan over medium-high heat. Once up to heat, he added 2 tablespoons of oil, and once that was hot, he added the chicken pieces, cooking until golden brown on the one side, about 4 minutes or so, and then flipped and cooked until golden brown on the other side, again about 3 to 4 minutes per side. While Matt was making the chicken, I went ahead and made the wine substitute with 2 tablespoons of lemon juice to 1/2 cup of water. Now, if you have a dry white wine on hand, you can of course go ahead and use that instead, but lemon and water does make an excellent, inexpensive sub for wine and imparts a similar acidity that the wine provides in the traditional dish. Once the chicken was done, Matt removed the chicken from the pan and then added a little more oil. And once that was hot, he added the onions and sauteed for about a minute and then added the garlic and cooked the 2 together for another 30 seconds or so. At this stage, he took the wine substitute and added that to the pan. Now, the pan we're using here is kind of uber stick free, but if you do have any brown bits stuck to the bottom of the pan, go ahead and use this step here to dislodge those and incorporate those into the sauce. Next comes the 1 1/2 cups of broth and the 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. And then he brought that up to a simmer over medium-high heat. And then once simmering, he reduced the heat a little bit to about medium and then allowed the sauce to simmer until reduced by about 2/3, which took about 10 minutes. In the meantime, I prepared his heavy cream substitute by melting 1/4 cup of butter, then whisking that with a 3/4 cup of whole milk. In addition, I also prepared a sauce thickener by whisking 2 tablespoons of stock with 2 tablespoons of flour. Since this dish pairs well with mashed potatoes, we decided to make that the side dish. And I have to tell you that I have never made instant potatoes prior to starting this budget meal challenge series. And I have to admit, I think they're awesome. I didn't know what I was missing. Let me know in the comments what you think. Are you instant mashed potatoes all the way, or oh my goodness, nope, never? But if using, this would be a good time to fix those up while the sauce is reducing. Once the sauce was reduced, Matt whisked in the sauce thickener, then quickly added the spinach and cooked until the spinach was wilted. This needed to be done in batches to fit all of the spinach into the pan. But each batch does cook down quickly, easily making room for all the spinach in the bag. At this stage, he mixed in the cream substitute and the Parmesan cheese. Once incorporated, he returned the chicken to the pan to heat through and then added salt and pepper to taste. He then gently stirred the mixture over low heat to ensure that all the ingredients were heated through. To serve, place cutlets on a plate, then spoon the creamy spinach sauce over top. Add a side of mashed potatoes, and this delicious meal provides, again, a protein, a starch, and a veggie. And better yet, this more budget-friendly remake of the classic chicken Florentine tastes almost identical to its more pricey original. And at about $2.33 per adult-sized serving, you can make a great meal at a great price. And here is the cost breakdown, and I won't go through all the ingredients since there are so many incidentals, but note that these are all things that you typically do have on hand, but everything is included here, including the main ingredients like spinach and chicken, and then all the substitution items, a seasoning, and the side dish, totaling $9.34. Now, since this combination makes 4 adult-sized servings, the per meal cost comes in at just $2.33. For our next budget meal, let's fancy it up with French this time and say we're making poulet aux champignons avec riz. Okay, mushroom chicken with rice. So for this meal, we will again be using a pound of the chicken tenders, then a container of sliced mushrooms, some flour to dredge, a half a cup of that chicken stock, some of that wine substitute made with the lemon like we did in the last recipe, and then 4 cloves of minced garlic, 4 tablespoons of butter, and some oil. To start, Matt took the tenders and dredged them in the seasoned flour. Next, he took a large frying pan and brought that up to medium-high heat, then added 2 tablespoons of butter and some oil. Then once hot, he added the chicken and cooked about 4 minutes on each side. Once the chicken was cooked, he removed it from the pan, then added a little more butter to the pan and sauteed the garlic for about 30 seconds. Then added the mushrooms and cooked those for about 3 minutes. At this stage, the mushrooms were removed from the pan, and the wine substitute, again made by using 2 tablespoons of lemon juice to 1/2 cup of water, was added in, followed by 1/2 cup of the chicken broth, and then that was brought up to a simmer. Next, a little bit of that sauce thickener, like I made for the last recipe, made with 2 tablespoons of flour to 2 tablespoons of chicken broth, was then added. I let that cook until slightly thickened, then added back in the mushrooms and the chicken and heat it through. Next, a little salt and pepper to taste and some fresh parsley, and done. This dish goes great with rice, and so I prepared some long grain rice and then just served the chicken and mushrooms over top. Another complete meal with protein, vegetable, and starch coming in at $2.06 per serving. And here's the cost breakdown. We again have the pound of chicken tenders, a package of the sliced mushrooms, broth, the seasonings, and the rice totaling $8.22. And since this combination yields 4 adult servings, the per serving cost comes in at $2.06. For our last budget meal, we have some spicy honey sriracha tenders with broccoli and rice. And again, we have the tenders, some flour to dredge, garlic, butter, and broth. And then I found these cute little bottles of flavored hot sauces, perfect for this dish at Walmart. They come in a variety of flavors like sriracha honey, black cherry, sweet and spicy, and peach bourbon. And best of all, each bottle costs just $1. Now you can get a large bottle for, I believe it's $6.48, but these small bottles are the perfect size for this recipe. So by now you know the drill. Dredge the tenders in the seasoned flour, then heat a frying pan over medium-high heat, add 2 tablespoons of butter, then cook the tenders until golden brown, about 4 minutes per side. Once cooked, remove the tenders from the pan, add another tablespoon of the butter, then when hot, add your garlic and cook about 30 seconds. Next, add 1/2 cup of the chicken broth and the contents of 1 bottle of the hot sauce. I like to get all that sauce out of the bottle, so what I'd like to do is take a little more broth, add that to the bottle, give it a good shake, and then add that to the pan. I let that cook down a little bit to thicken the sauce, then added back the chicken to heat through. Next, I just added a little salt, pepper, and parsley to finish the dish. And I just want to mention here that if you do like a lot of sauce, like I do, you can use 2 bottles of the sauce and 1 cup of stock, and that'll give you a whole bunch of extra sauce. Now this dish goes great with rice and broccoli, so again I prepared the rice and steamed the broccoli. And then to serve, I put the rice on a dish and put the steamed broccoli to one side, then added the chicken tenders on top of the rice on the other side. And then there you have another quick, easy, and delicious budget meal complete with protein, vegetable, and starch. For the cost breakdown, we have the pound of tenders, the sauce, a bunch of fresh broccoli, broth, seasonings, and the rice totaling $8.72. But since this combination realistically only makes 3 adult servings, the per serving price comes in at $2.90. Well, we hope you have enjoyed this latest edition of our Budget Meal Challenge series featuring chicken tenders. If you'd like to see more great budget meal ideas, you can click on one of these links here and be sure to subscribe and hit that notification so you are among the first to see the next time we upload a video. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.